All right. Well, so give us a high level overview of the server side. What's involved there? So they sign in with Apple on their device. You get JSON web token that you send to your server. Your server verifies it with Apple. And is this on the first request, or is it every time you?
Well, every time you sign in, you're going to get every time you trigger a sign in, you're going to get a new JSON web token, because if I remember correctly, that is only valid for about 5 minutes. There are things that you do only get on the first request. The email address, for sure, is something you only get on the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if you don't save it, and the first request being the first time that user hits the sign in with Apple and gets an authentication back. The second time they do it, and when would the second time be? That might be if they deleted your app and reinstalled it.
Oh, wow.
It will not send again, because Apple knows that user has tapped that button in that app before, and so it's not going to send back an email the next time. And that's for, security or whatever reason that Apple chose to do that. But on the server side, when you send that JSON web token, it comes back as an authenticated token. So as long as it doesn't throw, you're going to get a number of items back from that, such as do they use a private email? Do they have a real user status? And Apple does their own checks on their end to determine if it's an actual user.
Okay. So first time you go through this process, it gets sent to your server, you send it to Apple, they send you back, you get this sort of information about the user that you only get the one time. And then now, how is that different from, like, if I come back to the app later again, and I do the sign in, or because if I sign in with Apple, I don't, it doesn't tell me sign in with Apple every time I launch the app, right? It just does it sometimes. Why do I never have to show it again? Why don't I have to sign in every time? Or
yeah, well, what I do, I create after that sign in has happened, I create a bearer token on my server and send that back to the app, and that bearer token is going to contain the token that I created on my server and the person ID that's tied to that user. And so then on the client side, I save that.
And the person ID that's one of your database things, or this is part of the sign in with Apple system?
That's actually one of my database things.
Okay.
I tie that bearer token to the person account that I created on my server.
Wait. I'm sorry. Let's back up a step.
Okay.
So I launched the app now the second time. I've already signed in with Apple the first time. What does the app have to do there? Does it have to send something to Apple or to your, what is it? What's the process?
What I do is I check to see if that person has a bearer token, a valid bearer token saved on their keychain.
In their keychain. Okay.
Correct. Yep. And if there is one and it's still valid, then bam, you're just in.
And it's valid based on the expiration time of the token, or?
Right.
Okay. Okay. So if that's still valid, you're just in, and you use that to send to your server to identify the user, or how does the user get identified from that?
That bearer token?
Yeah, I guess. What do you use that token for?
For me, I'm just verifying that it exists, because if it doesn't exist or is invalid, then I trigger the sign-in flow again. And honestly, that's how I handle it. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I'm so a little naive about all this stuff, I guess. So
I think I am too. But this is
well, but you've got it in a couple apps.
I do. But it still feels okay.
Gosh.
Am I doing this correctly? Right? Am I checking for validity correctly? And I always question this, because it's well, how do I know what I've missed?
Am I doing something incredibly stupid that I don't even realize?
Yeah, because I'm not a security expert. This is just the flow that I've gone through, and in researching sign in with Apple, which was actually pretty tough to find information on the server side of how to handle this stuff. I don't even know that much about bearer tokens. It's just I'm creating how do I do it? I create a random identifier on the server, and then I just send that back to my client.
So when your client then talks to your server on that second launch, how does your server know who the client is then? How do they know that that's associated with me? Or
how does my client know it's talking to that? Oh, well, because I had to think about that for a second. Every query that it sends to check for new posts. It's sending the not the client ID, but the
like a user identifier.
The user identifier, yeah. And I can't remember if I'm using the person identifier, which would be a UUID, or the sign in with Apple identifier. I can't remember which of those. In fact, I could look at GetAPI real quick to find how I am asking about those endpoints. Let me just see. So I'm using the sign in with Apple identifier. When I send a request to get new posts, any new posts that have been made, I'm using the sign in with Apple identifier that is on the client to verify that. So that's how it knows, or that's how I'm using it anyway.
So every communication from your app to your server to your backend is sending the sign in with Apple identifier.
Yes.
Which then gets validated again, I guess, by the server, or does it use that just as a lookup? Maybe that's proprietary and secret, and I shouldn't ask.
No, it's using a. And I've got to look at my code again. This is great. This is live. It's like a live demo because I didn't expect these questions, but they're valid questions, and I think it's good. So I have protected routes, and those routes have to be validated. I think it's to create statuses. Yes, I have a token authenticator, and this is kind of some middleware stuff that it's called an async bearer authenticator, and this is Vapor side or JSON Web Token side stuff that's making sure that you have a bearer token in there in order to create a post.
What did you say it was called again?
Async bearer authenticator, and so I'm filtering on the server side. Do I have a bearer token that matches a value that's on the server that matches also with the user? And so if those things all tie up, then yes, that's a user. Yes, that's a bearer token. Those are valid, and that user can now post or whatever in my protected routes.
Very cool. So then once you've got all that set up, if you want to add a new API endpoint for your backend or change some data structure, anything like that, you're not having to think about this on every little.
Right, as long as it's in that protected root, because it's called it's a group, root grouped, and so anything that's under that group is just going to be authenticated. Now you're going to have to provide your CWA, your sign in with Apple identifier, in order for that to pass that gate, that authenticated group. So that will be part of your new endpoint. But
you're going to have to at least call a thing that jumps through those hoops, make sure that it's, but you'd have to do that. You have to do something anyway, right? You have to always make sure that your users, who you think they are. And do you feel like integrating, like I know you were using Vapor on the back end, does Vapor feel like it works well with sign in with Apple, or do you feel like they're kind of at odds or irrelevant?
No, really. I mean, the method that is used to handle that sign in with Apple process on the back end is actually pretty straightforward. There's a lot of little steps that are going into it, but it's really that one line that you're sending to Apple to verify that JSON Web Token, and after that, it's kind of up to you how you handle the identifier that comes back from Apple. That sign in with Apple ID, the expiration time, how you create your bearer token, that's kind of down to you. And the one line that it's a helper method, and it's somewhat opaque to me, but it's just jwt.apple.verify. And they have other helper methods for sign in with Google, but how that's working a little bit behind the scenes, I don't know. So for that reason, I do like Vapor's implementation that it's like, you want to use sign in with Apple, you want to verify with their servers, just send that JSON Web Token and send your app's bundle identifier, and it's gonna authenticate with them.
As easy as it can be, but it maybe isn't super easy, huh?
It wasn't immediately clear to me how to do this. In fact, when I first implemented sign in with Apple, it took me a lot longer than I expected, because I just didn't feel like I had a whole lot of resources as to what to do with this information once you put it on the back end, how you handle it on the server side. And that's why I wrote the blog post.